Greetings, everyone. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the Mortgage Innovators Podcast, where we deliver fresh and hopefully fun and entertaining insights on all things mortgage and the innovation propelling our industry forward. My name is Margaret Chiavini. I am with New Res Correspondent Lending, and every Tuesday you can find our rotating group of co-hosts who all share their own unique connection to the industry. This week is a fabulous week because I am joined by the amazing Michael Guidotti. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Margaret, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Always so much fun to tackle any topic with you on this podcast. This week, we're continuing our new series called Let's Recruit. Each episode in the month of October, we're focusing on all things recruiting and finding the best talent for your company. So before we get started with the episode, I'm excited to announce that Innovators UNITE, it's the Mortgage Innovators Conference, will be actually held in June next year, the 14th through the 15th, 2023, at the Hilton Anaheim. Sponsorship opportunities are now open, and if you want more info, head to mortgageinnovators.com/conference to keep up to date on what's going on. So, Michael, let's get started on recession and recruiting. So, Michael, let's get started. I always like to be honest and transparent, and to be very honest, it's brutal these days, right? I mean, we are living in a perfect storm. We've had interest rates skyrocketing. We're all facing excess capacity. We're facing basically compressed margins and a tremendous amount of pressure on production, which is kind of what we're basically in a recession. Some say we aren't, but we all know we are. And recruiting is becoming more and more critical. And, when I think about recruiting, I also like to always think about another R word, and that is retention, retaining. We're always thinking about, how do I bring on more loan officers or ops people? And it's equally as important to say, how do I keep my talent and how do I retain them? So, as I said, we always love talking with you because you bring a amazing perspective because you're with APM and, such a great organization and, of course, your role. So how are you doing and what are you seeing?
Oh, so much to unpack there, right? Brutal is right. There's no, I think, better word to describe what's going on right now. But what I love that you said, because I feel like it's the R word that gets lost in a lot of this, is retention. I think it has to start with retention. I think recruiting starts with retention because if you're losing everybody out the back door, who's going to want to come in the front door? And so I think, making sure that you're taking care of your people. I think with, technology, people have so much access to information. When we're talking to recruits, whether it's loan officers or branches, I can't tell you the number of times that they say, oh, I looked you guys up online and, called these branches that are with you to get an unfiltered, unedited, understanding of what what your company's like. I don't want to get the recruiting pitch. I want to talk to somebody who's been there, done that, knows the organization. So I think really focusing on, treating your people right, the retention aspect actually helps build onto that recruiting momentum that you're looking for. For us at APM, we've had the benefit of having our leadership team that's really been, thinking ahead, building out tools and resources to help us, recruit and retain even before this market turn happened. One of the things that I think we're lucky enough that they've invested in is something called Launchpad, which for us is a proprietary platform. And what it does is it's a training regimen that's built out to train new loan officers to the industry. And so what we've seen a lot of our branches, doing even, throughout the last couple of years and even prior to that is, converting LOAs, processors, people that might be more impacted by the down volume to become loan officers. So then now they have the ability to sustain through this environment and this market that we're going through right now. Also getting people to come over from other, industries, people that might have that sales drive but don't know, how to become, a loan officer. They don't know, who to link up with and how to really learn that side of the business. So with Launchpad, we have a team that helps, do the training. It's a 6-month program total to where they're, learning the sales coaching aspect. They're getting their license. They're getting partnered up with loan officers so that they can see it, day in and day out. They're beginning that process of building out, their realtor and referral partner relationships, and and so we've just seen a ton of success in that. And then it's also allowing us to invest in our existing, employees. So that's been a huge, I think, retention and recruiting strategy for us all in one. And that would be one that we've been lucky enough to have, our leadership team really invest and get behind.
I love how you started out saying, you treat your people right. And I think that's so cool that somebody would say, yeah, I want to talk to the frontline person. I got that you're giving me the sales pitch. Why should I come over? But let me talk to somebody who's actually engaging and, is part of the organization. What would you say, how important is culture in terms of, and when we say culture, what do we mean from the perspective of retaining and recruiting?
Yeah, I think it's one of those words, right? That if you talk to any company, it's probably one of the first things that they say is the best thing about them, right? Is our culture. And, you hit it on the head. A lot of times people will say, okay, what's that mean? Like I've talked to 5 companies, everybody's talking about culture. What does that mean? For me personally, and I think for our company, I think it's how we show up every day. I think that it's things like we truly do look at it as we flip the org chart upside down. First and foremost, we work for our branches and our loan officers. And I think that that's one of the keys, for American Pacific Mortgage as a whole is, all of our leadership team, myself included, all originators or, past originators. So we have that background. We know what it's like to have borrowers, that have a moving truck in their house packed up and a delay at closing. We know what it's like to have a realtor on the other end of the phone, having a struggle and needing somebody, really needing that mortgage advisor to help them get through that process. And so I think for us, that's one of our, differentiating factors. And just really, our core values that we're living in, it's not an ad lib. It's not just thrown up, on our website. We are 100% focused on making our branch managers and originators look good. That's just ours, right? And there's a ton of other great companies out there that have their, culture and their unique value propositions. But those are really ours.
How important, from your point of view, are products as we're talking about, retaining and then recruiting? I mean, I look at it like, every single solitary deal is critical these days.
Yeah, I think it's really evolved over the past several years, right? It used to be the biggest question you'd get is like, are you agency direct? Are you direct to Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie? Like, that's what I need to know. That's the biggest thing for me because my company is not. And then, it transitioned into, especially in us being in some of your, more high val markets, is like, okay, what jumbo options do you have? Because my company only has 1 or 2, and, are you delegated on any of them? Now, recently, what is it? What non-QM options do you have? And do you have anything, in-house? Or what, more, niche products do you have? And I think what it boils down to is, what do you have that I can take to my agents to get some face time with them? What does your company offer that I might not have that might help me go out and gain more business? Because that's really the name of the game always. But right now, that's, I think, the most important piece. So, and I think what that, comes down to as well is a little bit to financial stability of, the company, because in order to really diversify your portfolio of products, right, you've got to have the capital from a, people standpoint to build out those products, those relationships with the investors. And so I think that that's one of the key things that we're hearing from people around products is just, what unique things are you doing And the last one, right, is overlays. Please tell me you guys don't have any overlays, that you guys are, underwriting direct to the, to the agency guidelines, direct to the DU and LP findings. And so that's, I think those are one of the, might be more of a guideline thing than a product specific, but I know that comes up in a lot of my conversations now.
Totally. It's so important because it can save a deal, which is cool. That's great. Well, that is, I love these conversations because they're so fundamental in nature that when we think about that, that first recruiting always starts with retaining. And then number one, treat your people right so they want to stay. And then technology, what do we have to enable? And then what's the culture look like? And then the products.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you can think of just for the listeners for this podcast that would be kind of another sort of key takeaway as they're looking at how to be more successful and a more powerful recruiter / retainer?
Yeah, I think, when you get into the innovation side of it, just keeping on brand with the podcast, what systems are they using for recruiting? I think one of the easiest things, to do is lose sight of people, right? Because recruiting is all about getting somebody at that right time, that right moment, because they're getting blown up by, tons of companies every day. So, what systems are you using for the follow-up, for tracking your notes, tracking your last conversation? I think we lose sight sometimes on how important that is to people. Being able to reference back, no different than we are with our clients, right? Hey, last time I talked, I know that these were your areas of concern. Are those still your same areas of concern, or how have things been going since there? Understanding that your company is your plan A, but are you open to considering a plan B just in case things change? I think just having those systems in place, whatever they are, to make sure that you're tracking that, keeping that up to date. And I think also just what is the company doing outside of, I think it's one of those things is all the key players that are heavily recruiting right now, have the products, have the investors, have a lot of the, have a good culture. What are they doing for their loan officers to help them get additional business right now? What type of sales training or sales coaching opportunities are they offering? Are they doing business planning to, outside of just, production that benefits us, but even helping them create personal goals? I think that's really important for people right now, especially, with what we went through over the last couple of years where there was no work-life balance. And so, I think those types of things, tools to help, them engage with their referral partners, more and more. So I think it's just really, taking a checklist of what's most important to you, as either somebody looking to potentially switch companies or as somebody who's, looking to bring on that talent is, just having that checklist and making sure that you're getting those questions answered from whoever you're talking to.
Yeah, I really, really like that. When you said, remember when you said, our org chart gets turned upside down. And I think that's when you really get that rich metrics that can be your checklist of what's important. Because you're right. I mean, people want a lot more than just the standard things that we think about. How does it make their life easier? How can they have a more enriched life? Which is great. Well, Michael, as usual, you're just full of amazing wealth of knowledge and so much that our listeners can take away from these conversations and implement in their shop. So thank you very much. We're really at the end of our time. So, love being on here with you and chatting with you. So,
as always, thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. And to all of you listening to today's podcast, thank you so much. If you like what you heard, please make sure to subscribe to the Mortgage Innovators YouTube channel or wherever you podcast. Until next time.